How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, and Sundays with Andrew Zarian. And it's Fun Friday here on the show. And you certainly... Well, actually, you can spell Fun Friday without Lance Storm. But he's going to be here today. We got a lot to talk about. And it's not all fun stuff. I mean, we got some news that is no fun. But, hey, we got to talk about it. So we'll get into all of that. And maybe at the end of the show, we'll have time for some questions, Q&A, perhaps some phone calls as well. So we'll figure that out. But Jim Ross, best wishes to him. He has been diagnosed with colon cancer, and he is scheduling surgery for the next week or two. So all the best to Jim Ross. He's had a lot of health issues, lots of health issues over the last several years. So hopefully the surgery is a success and he's back on his feet soon. All the best to him. I've also got an update on Hulk Hogan, who had neck fusion surgery. Billy Jack Haynes and his wife's murder trial. Rob Van Dam talking the death of Sabu, which Lance wants to talk about as well here today. And then, of course, we've got the ratings lineup for SmackDown tonight. We can talk about TNA and plenty more. So if you want, text us 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. F4WOnline at gmail.com is the email. F4WOnline threads, Instagram, and Cameo. And I'm at Bryan Alvarez on X and Blue Sky. $10 cameos. I got some time this afternoon. So head up there, F4W Online. A personal video message for yourself, a good friend, or perhaps a hated rival. So a lot to get into today. We're going to kick it off after the break. Back in a moment with Lance Storm, Wrestling Observer Live. Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Man, Dom figured out how to remove old Sempervive from that open. That's going to take a long time to get used to. That was weird. Lance, what's going on?
Not too much. Just a beautiful Friday in Calgary.
Just a beautiful, fun... Is it really a beautiful Friday? Because it sucks here.
Well, it's Friday, which is making it more beautiful, and it really is.
Better than Monday. All right. We got a couple of news notes here. Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan, it says here, has undergone a neck fusion procedure. According to the report, TMZ, the surgery was, quote, a little fusion procedure done in an attempt to help Hogan, quote, feel a little better. Oh, okay. Quick turnaround. And that's that. I wonder if it was that minimally invasive surgery. Remember Kurt Angle got the minimally invasive surgery that was kind of going around there for a while? I'm not sure how well that worked out there in the end.
Well, I think as long as you're not taking bumps anymore, it might be all right.
Yeah, I guess. But speaking of, this coming Saturday, yes, it's a plug, Relentless Wrestling, Spokane, Washington. I'm going to be there with Filthy Tom Lawler and Monumental 2. It's taking place at the casino, and we are going to be doing a live podcast with Kurt Angle. In fact, myself and Filthy Tom will be interviewing Kurt Angle. This is coming Saturday, Spokane, Washington, Relentless Wrestling. It's a big show, a lot of big matches, and you can check it out at the Relentless Wrestling X, Relentless PNW. That is at Relentless PNW. It's the Northern Quest Casino and Resort. It's a pretty sweet-looking casino, and they've got a steakhouse. So if you're looking for me, why, that's where I'll be there.
That's pretty much your measuring stick for a good anything.
Yeah, the podcast is going to take place 4 to 5 p.m. That's with Kurt Angle, myself, and Filthy Tom. And, man, I had a rough night last night. I just had one nightmare after another that I didn't make it on time. So I'm leaving real early in the morning tomorrow to get there to Spokane for this deal. But anyway, check that out. All right, also we got to talk about Billy Jack Haynes, Dark Side of the Ring. They just had the Dark Side of the Ring on Billy Jack, and he was just this week ruled unfit to stand trial in his wife's murder. He was arrested in February 2024, accused of shooting his wife, Jeanette Beecraft, to death, facing charges of second-degree murder, unlawful use of a weapon. Well, I would say so. Status check took place the week before the judge declared that Haynes is mentally unfit to stand trial. He was sent to Oregon State Hospital, further evaluation and treatment. He will remain there until he is fit to stand trial. So exactly how they deemed he was unfit, I don't know. His wife was 85 at the time of her death, was believed to be suffering from dementia. He was a wrestling star in Portland. After his time in wrestling, he gave interviews where he spouted conspiracy theories, caused fans to speculate about his mental stability. Dark Side of the Ring featuring Haynes premiered on Vice TV earlier this month. So, will not be standing trial for the time being. And that's the latest on that. So, over the last week or so, after the passing of Sabu, there had been a lot of talk about GCW and Joey Janela, an interview that Janela did regarding the match that I believe was out in Sports Illustrated. And Rob Van Dam, over the last couple of days, addressed the situation. Him and Taz did a live stream, sharing their memories of Sabu on Thursday night. And RVD, who was one of Sabu's best friends, said all the heat that's gone to Joey Janela and GCW, it's ridiculous. I've read comments from social media followers that say GCW should be arrested on manslaughter. Wait, regardless of the cause of death, RVD said, 3 weeks later, thank God these people aren't actually in control making real decisions. He said, a lot of my friends have been able to quit taking opiates, and they take kratom. A lot of followers have told me and thanked me for talking about kratom because they've done the same thing. Can you get addicted to it? Well, you can get addicted to chocolate. If you're a person that's going to get addicted to stuff, then stay away from everything. The answer is that, sure, it's possible, and can you take too much? Sure. People are saying shame on GCW for allowing a 60-year-old to get in the ring and have a match like that. And I can tell you, he was my closest friend, closest person to me next to Katie Forbes right here. And I can tell you that he was 61, and he wanted that. He wanted that for a long time. In fact, Joe Clark, we've had him on the show before. Joe Clark and I made a documentary on concussions called Headstrong, which is on Amazon. He'd been working with Sabu for a long time, several months, filming a documentary. Just a few weeks ago, they were over here. Sabu and I were working out in a gym, hanging out in my sauna. I can't wait to see the footage he has. And of course, the ending is definitely going to be a little different than they planned on. He was training. He wanted this big retirement match so much that when it got down to it, he knew he had one more in him. One thing that he said when I saw him after his match with Janela, he said, I got one more match in me. If you're still interested in doing that barbed wire match, I'm interested. Because I'd talked to him before about being the guy that would be his last opponent, which a lot of people would think easy. Of course you're going to do that, but he said, no, that's cheating. Just like he thinks two brothers wrestling each other is cheating from his perspective, because they grew up and they know each other too well. So he did state that Sabu's legal name was not Terrence Brunk, it was Terry Brunk. He was born in Michigan, not New York, and he was 61 when he passed away and not 60. So, got about 3 minutes to get started, Lance, but I know you wanted to talk about this as well.
Well, I can probably do that in 3 or less. Sabu, more than anyone in the business, did things his way. He lived his life how he wanted. He did his matches the way he wanted. He conducted his business the way he wanted. And he did his extracurricular activities as he wanted. So trying to blame Joey Janela, or is it Brett Lauderdale?
Yes.
For doing something to Sabu, I think is ridiculous. Sabu was Sabu. Sabu was an adult. Sabu did what he always did and did his business the way he wanted. And if Sabu did that match, it's because he wanted to do it. And if there were consequences, then Sabu would live with those. And again, we still don't even know if there's even a remote connection between his passing and that match. So I think people playing armchair physician or armchair investigator trying to place blame is absurd. Sabu always did things the way he wanted. And if you want to blame a wrestler or a promoter for having a match with Sabu when he may or may not have taken a substance or two, you're going to need to expand your list beyond those two.
All right, if you have any comments on any of this, you're welcome to send them to us. The text message line is 425-780-7566. You can also email me at 4wonline@gmail.com, and we'll take some of those a little bit later on here in the show if we have time. In the meantime, we do have a lot, including SmackDown tonight. We have got Tiffany Stratton, Nia Jax. It's a title match. Tiffany is defending against Nia Jax tonight. We have Money in the Bank qualifying matches, and they're doing everyone's favorite, multi-person matches. Chelsea, Alexa, and Michin is one Money in the Bank qualifier, and Jimmy Uso, Rey Fenix, and Solo Sikoa is the other. And man, you know, we haven't really talked about the return of Alexa Bliss, but it's kind of weird because she returned for a while, and then she disappeared for a long period of time. And, you know, I kind of asked around, like, where did Alexa go? And the story was, well, they're preparing for something. Like, it's not some sort of scandal or anything. They're preparing for something. She's going to be doing something. And so I figured, well, you know, the Wyatt Six or whatever. And then it was like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then one day she just showed up as Alexa Bliss again. I was like, what? So I don't know what's going on, brother, but she's back. Talk about this more after the break. Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Lance Storm joining us. And no, everyone, I don't know where the Wyatt Six are. I don't know. I mean, they didn't release them, so they must have some idea of doing something with them. And maybe Alexa will be involved. And her coming back and doing whatever she's going to do is going to lead to... I mean, I think... Listen, whatever you think about Alexa and Wyatt Six and the whole gimmick and everything like that, you all know that on a big show, if they shot an angle where Alexa and the Wyatt Six all showed up and united, the place would go wild. So maybe they're waiting for the right place, right time. I don't know. But she just came back and wrestled. And that was it.
Now she's in a three-way.
Yes. You know, tell us about this tour busing. The originator of the tour buses was not who you would think, everyone.
I was half joking with, you know, everybody makes a big deal of the innovation of Sabu, which is legit. He did change a lot of things and innovate a lot of things, but everybody now talks about these big tour buses that big stars have. And back in the mid to late 90s, Sabu had what we called the Extreme Winnebago.
Yes.
He had a Winnebago motorhome. And rather than flying and renting cars and driving all over the place, I think he worked out a deal with Paul for a higher paycheck where he didn't have to cover trans. And Sabu lived in and traveled in the Extreme Winnebago. And it was funny at the time. And one of my favorite images of Sabu, actually, because he would generally park the Winnebago in the parking lot of the hotel that we were staying at. So often when, you know, Jerry Lynn and I'd get up and, you know, in the morning to go to the gym or whatever, you'd see Sabu out walking his dog because he'd have his wife and his dog with him in the Winnebago. And he had this tiny, tiny little miniature dog. And it'd be Sabu, often in a cowboy hat, boxer shorts, and cowboy boots, walking this miniature dog in the parking lot.
I heard about this dog.
And it was just so not what you would think from Sabu. But yeah, anyone on tour buses and not doing rental cars and flights so much, Sabu was the originator of that with the Extreme Winnebago.
You know, I want to talk a little bit about Impact last night. You're probably the wrong person to have on the show when I talk about Impact.
Well, I can't be as objective as I probably should.
Well, you can't be objective, and also people will... and I have a tendency to be harder on my friends. But anyway, so what I did really like when Impact started was there was a Sabu graphic. And, you know, he worked all over the place. But it was really nice that, you know, we had a Sabu graphic and shout-out on WWE. We had a Sabu graphic and shout-out on on Dynamite. We had a Sabu graphic and shout out on TNA. I mean, he was just everywhere. Everybody had their tribute to Sabu. And, something I mentioned on the Bryan and Vinny show last night that kind of ties into the Impact show last night. I watched Impact, and I liked it, There was stuff that wasn't all that great. There was stuff that was good. And, it was a fun main event. We had the former Dolph Ziggler versus Jeff Hardy for like the first time in 15 years. And, they're two pros. Good match, clean finish. It played into the upcoming tag team match, which is coming up, I think, next Friday. And, there were two things over the last couple of days related to Impact that I heard and I liked, okay? One, I mentioned on Bryan and Vinny last night, which was that on NXT this week, they had a sit-down interview with Joe Hendry and Trick. And I think if we're being honest here, Lance, I think you would agree. The fact of the matter is, I won't call it a third-rate promotion. I don't like that term necessarily. But they are a solid number 3.
Either.
Okay, they're a solid number 3, right? I mean, they're not bigger than WWE. They're just not. And they're not bigger than AEW. So they're third. They're the third national promotion. And, there's two things you can do when you're the third national promotion. You can pretend you're not and push yourself as a number 1 wrestling promotion in this country and be totally full of it, but try to, perception is reality or whatever. Or you can be honest about what's going on, which is that you're the third place company without necessarily saying that, but accept it. And, during the back and forth with Trick and Joe Hendry, Joe Hendry made the point that he is the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. He is carrying this company on his shoulders, and this company is bigger than it has been in many years. And he said that, and I was like, golly, that's what you want to do. Because it's not going out there and saying, you know what, we're bigger than NXT. And I mean, they probably are bigger than NXT, except when they if NXT is doing a show over Mania weekend, they're going to draw great. But in general, it's they're selling way more tickets than, NXT. But the fact is, NXT is part of WWE. And he didn't go out there and brag, I'm the champion, I'm the biggest. He didn't do any of that. He just said, I'm the champion of this company, and we are doing the best we've been doing in years, and I'm the guy. And I feel responsible for that, and I need to represent this company. And I thought that was great because ultimately, as I talked about yesterday, that's your goal. Okay? Your goal is not necessarily to try to be number 1. You can try to be number 1, but if you're not number 1, you can either cry about it or you can be the best TNA that you can be, and you can focus on how can we make TNA better? How can we grow TNA? How we're competing with ourselves. And then the other thing that I liked, which sort of tied into it, is they did an angle on the show last night. So it was supposed to be the Hardys versus the Zigglers, the Nemeths. Coming up at this PLE, whatever you want to call it.
Under siege.
But the fact of the matter is, Jeff can't get over the border. So they could have done an injury angle or whatever. But instead, they just flat out, it's reality. This guy can't get over the border. He can't make it for the match. And so they did an angle and there's a replacement for Jeff Hardy. But, there's just, it is refreshing to me to see a promotion that's just, this is just reality, everybody. You know what? We're not number 1, but that's fine. We're doing the best we can, and we're doing really well. And you know what? This guy, he can't make it over the border. So that's why he's not going to be there, and we're going to do a replacement. And it's Leon Slater. It's a guy that, he's got a history with the Hardys, and it all makes sense. And I like that. It was refreshing to me. I watched the show. I enjoyed the show. There was no point during the show where it was I'm not going to watch this show as a fan because they ain't number 1. Or I'm not going to watch this show because Joe Hendry did a job for Randy Orton clean at WrestleMania. It's we are a month out from WrestleMania, And there is no evidence that Joe Hendry showing up and doing a job for Randy Orton hurt Joe Hendry, hurt TNA, hurt anybody. Would I have done it that way? I probably wouldn't have. But at the end of the day, that's what they did. And all of the gloom and doom the next day, oh my God, who's going to blah, blah, blah. And nothing happened. They're all watching the show. If anything, Joe's probably more over. I mean, everybody's talking about Joe Hendry. Hasn't heard him one bit. He's one of the big stars on NXT. He's probably going to main event the freaking NXT PLE coming up in a week. So, yeah, I like the show.
I'm a firm believer in be honest whenever you can. Just because it's a work doesn't mean you have to lie about everything. And I think you're right. It's like, just find the truth you can tell that is positive. And TNA is as hot as it's been in a really long time. Our show is good. Our crowds are good. Joe Hendry is hot. It's like, brag about the positive. And if you just come out and try to say that we're the number one company in the world, it's like, hey, I love TNA. I work there. But it's like, it's not true. So don't BS your fan base if you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't need to get in a fight with number 2 or number 1. Just do your best. That's all there is to it. You don't have to go out there and call out, whoever. I'm a better champion than so-and-so, Just, it is what it is, and give something entertaining and fun to your fans that are already supporting you, and try to build from that. You know what else I know is on the show, which I never thought I'd say? Indy Hartwell was way better on this than she ever was in NXT. It was bizarre. I mean, I got nothing against Indy Hartwell, okay? But, when she was in NXT, it was like, man, I don't know. Just, not getting it and not improving, and the promos are not good, and, she ends up getting cut. And once she was cut, it was sort of like, I don't know what you do with her. But she went to TNA, and, she was better in the ring. She just, I don't know what it is. Can you explain this to me? Is it, I don't know what it is. She had more confidence. It was like she wasn't in her own head like it felt like she was half the time in NXT. I don't know if there's a different pressure there that there isn't in TNA, but she was much better on this show than she was when she was on NXT.
Well, I didn't see her in NXT, so I can't complain. But I do know from being in WWE and part of their developmental system, sometimes they do have a lot of pressure on you that can mess with people's heads. And TNA has a very welcoming and encouraging environment that I think a lot of talent accelerate in TNA because it's a really good environment to grow.
Now, I will say one thing that not necessarily didn't like it, but I didn't get it. So you got Mr. Stone there, who was the foil now of Santino. But one of the things he foiled was Santino wanting to restart a match with an NXT talent. And then Mr. Stone came out and said, nope, not happening. And the NXT talent got screwed. So that was kind of weird. But I guess there's different stories, different places, even if they are crossing.
Well, if you
hold on. Hold that thought. Back in a moment, Observer Live. The show, Bryan Alvarez here, Lance Storm. So very quickly, what happened was it was Tessa Blanchard and the former Alicia Fox, Victoria Crawford, against Masha Slamovich and NXT's Nikita Lyons. And they did a deal where the heels brought a chair into the ring. Tessa slid the chair to Crawford, but the ref's not looking. Slamovich gets the chair, and she whacks Crawford with it, and the referee turns around and disqualifies the Masha Slamovich Nikita Lyons team, okay? So the NXT wrestlers on the team that got disqualified here, the babyface team. So out comes Santino, and he says, we will not stand for this. This match must continue. And then out comes Mr. Stone, who is an NXT, he's an NXT guy. He's an NXT GM or whatever you call him. I don't even know what his role is in NXT anymore. But he comes out and he rules that no, it will stand. So Nikita still loses. Well, that's kind of weird. As a guy who watches NXT, I couldn't, it's clear that, one guy's the heel authority and the other guy's the babyface authority. But he's a heel but he's an NXT person, and he screwed an NXT person who's a babyface. So anyway, it was just kind of weird.
But you missed a week, and he has an affiliation with Victoria Crawford, who won via disqualification.
He has an affiliation, huh?
Yes, they've been involved on our show and connected.
Huh.
Again, we don't have exact details what the situation is, but there is a connection between he and Victoria Crawford, and obviously he is a foil for Santino. So his allegiance wasn't to the NXT talent as much as Victoria Crawford.
I see. All right, well, we're going to get into some of the commentary here. I want to mention a couple of other quick things. The NXT show, 664,000 viewers, and a .15 in 18 to 49, and had some competition. But that is the fourth lowest audience a show has drawn in 2024, and the third lowest 18 to 49. So not a particularly great number for NXT, but not terrible. It was all right. Now the one I want to talk about is Beach Break. So Beach Break did very well, and I bring this up because the main event of Beach Break was Jon Moxley and Samoa Joe in a steel cage match for the AEW title. And it's funny because there's so many people that I hate this Death Rider storyline. I hate Jon Moxley as a champion. I'm just, it's just blah, 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 blah. And I mean, there are certainly things that you could criticize about it, but the fact of the matter is, that's the point.
You're supposed to want to see him dethroned.
Yes. Do you guys understand what this business is even about anymore? I mean, it's almost like people have forgotten what wrestling is about. You're supposed to be begging for somebody to beat the champion. It's not supposed to be like a heel champion that you like, and man, I can't wait to see him have a good match with such and such and this and that. You're supposed to want to see somebody beat him. And from day one when he came out, the entire storyline has been about, I'm not going to let anybody see this belt. I'm not going to let anybody beat me. So if you can do it, let's go. And they build up challengers, and he beats them. And then you want to see the next guy, who's next, and they beat him. And I mean, it's just, and what happened? What's my point? Well, Jon Moxley defending the title in the main event of Beach Break, 682,000 viewers. They have not had 682,000 viewers since September 18 of last year. It's May. So we're looking 8 months since they've drawn this many viewers. And the 18 to 49, a .17, which is
1-7.
What? It's .17.
Read numbers
brother.
correctly. It's .17.
Get out of here, you cyborg. That's the best number since March 19th. And, I mean, they did have, they had a Celtics New York Knicks NBA playoff game that did a 1.44 in 18 to 49. That's a big number. A .32, if you must, in the Toronto Maple Leafs NHL playoff game. So they had real competition, and they did really well because people want to see Moxley lose the title. That's the point. So anyway, thought I'd throw that out there.
And that's a really big match, regardless of which finish you want. A world title match in a cage. Joe's a legitimate challenger, so good for them.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some of the mailbag questions here. I didn't open the phones, everybody, so you'll have to email me or text me. Let's see here. Yes, this is a good one from Brandon. For most wrestlers and tag teams that are presented like geeks, would winning matches be enough to turn things around, like the Outrunners or Top Flight? Would you like to go first?
I think it will short term, because I think fans today like what they like, and sometimes goofy things get over. But I think long term, to actually be a higher on the card top contender, if you will, if not the main event, I do think the goofy has to evolve and become a little less goofy. But getting on a run.
Well, hold on. I don't think he's talking about like goofy. I think he's talking about you've got a team and they always lose. They always get geeked out. They don't do a goofy gimmick. They just never win. Like, can you put them on a win streak and get them over?
Me personally, I think you need to have a storyline reason for a change. You know what I mean? Whether they pick up a manager, whether they've changed their act, so that there's something of, we've done something different now. Let's see if this works. And again, you could do that with a heel or babyface change, adding a manager, a storyline with, hey, we're going to go to Japan and try to find our roots again. And you tell that story and then you bring them back. I think if they just start winning, it feels just a little bit odd if nothing storyline-wise has changed.
Well, I think the answer is that it depends, okay? Because I have seen, and actually a good example is from the old days of TNA. Do you guys remember Crimson? Remember that guy?
The undefeated streak that sort of wasn't.
He had an undefeated streak, and they just had him keep winning matches. And they were trying to like make a Goldberg, and it just didn't work. And nothing against the guy, okay? Nothing against the guy. But it was proof that just winning all your matches is not enough, okay? The thing to me is, if you're a guy who never wins or a team, but like the people really like you and you have something, okay? Then I think that whatever your idea is, get a manager, do some sort of story or whatever, but like then they start building up wins. Yeah, it can work. I mean, dude, how many matches did Kyle how many I mean, him and when they were whatever the team name was, Fletcher and the guy in the pajamas. Anyway, the point is, like, how many matches? Mark Davis. You know, they lost a lot of matches, okay? Look at Takeshita. Dude, Takeshita couldn't catch a win. Lost and lost and lost and lost and lost and lost and lost. But both of them, it was like the fans were like, when's this guy going to get his due? Same with like Mortos, okay? Mortos is a guy that like everyone sees him as, this dude's awesome. He has great matches. He's got a cool mask. Like, people are into Mortos, but he loses. Well, you know what? If they hooked him up with some guy or some group or whatever, and he started going on a win streak, the fans would buy into it immediately because they want to see him win. That's the difference. If you're just a geek, and I won't mention any names, but like, you don't bring much to the table, your promos aren't very good, your matches aren't very good, like, you can have all the wins you want, it ain't gonna work. So you gotta bring something to the table in order for this turnaround to occur. And like, the thing with the Outriders is they organically got over, okay? And you know, people will now say, well, you know, look at them now, it's a good thing they didn't push them, but to me it's like, no, anyone who organically gets over, they got something, okay? So you can push them. If it doesn't work down the road, switch it off or whatever. But even now, I think if they started taking the Outrunners seriously and gave them a push and gave them some wins, yeah, I think they could get over big again. So they got something. This person said, Indy did some indie wrestling on the indies. Maybe that helped.
Can't have heard.
No. Have you been working with Indy at all?
Not really, no. Now, granted, I do match feedback for everyone, so I'm working with everyone a little bit. But again, I didn't personally oversee her match, so I wasn't super hands-on. She's just started. She had her debut.
She didn't train with you, did she?
No. This at TV was the first time I met her.
All right, because I know you had a lot of folks from Australia and that neck of the woods. Let's see here. This person said, TNA being honest was one of the reasons that I fell in love with early AEW, when they were open about what they could be. Yeah, I think they need to think about that. I mean, here's the thing. So, like, there have been, I mean, of late, especially with Will Ospreay, it's like, Will Ospreay just, every week there's some new interview where he's saying a bunch of negative stuff about WWE. And there's two things here. I mean, part of it is, if you're interviewing Will Ospreay, you don't have to ask him about WWE. But a lot of people do, and they ask the question, and then off he goes. But in general, it's like, it's getting to the point where, I mean, can we stop talking about WWE, dude? I mean, it's like, it almost, he's coming off as being obsessive about it. And this should not be like what he's all about right now. He should be about, hey, listen, I'm one of the top guys. I want to fight for the title. I want to be the top guy in AEW. And, like, put over AEW. We don't need to do comparisons. We don't need to do all that. Just concentrate on the company you're working with and build that thing up big. Let's see. Would AEW, WWE, or TNA allow that match to happen with all the known circumstances, i.e., kratom, bleeding feet, inability to walk, etc.? If no, then why is it okay for GCW? Well, there's a bunch of things. First off, it was not GCW that gave him kratom. It was his team. And, you know, I don't know a lot about kratom, but a lot of the people that we've heard from who have done kratom, they're like, actually, I had one person say 80% of the people in WWE, actually, it was Joey said it. And I've had other people say it as well, that there's plenty of people in wrestling that are taking kratom for pain relief properties. But, I mean, we're really talking about what AEW and WWE do as far as letting people in the ring. I mean, I can name some examples after the break, but there's plenty. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here. So, I mean, there's a million examples of this, but I'm looking at just, like, the last couple of years, so it's, like, more of a fair comparison and not, like, you know, half of Kurt Angle's career and that Jeff Hardy Sting match and stuff like that. But, I mean, just from the past couple of years, and these are the ones we know about, okay? These are the ones that we very publicly know about. Like, we wouldn't even have heard about the Sabu thing had Joey not done that interview. So, we had Cody, Peck completely torn off the bone. They let him go in there for that match. We had JD McDonough, who just a couple of, I mean, we all saw that one. He punctured his lung and then had a bunch of other really serious injuries. They let him keep wrestling that match. At AEW, we've got Shibata, who nearly died, and New Japan, to this day, will not clear him to have a match, but he's out there wrestling every week, full matches in AEW. Bryan Danielson's done interviews. You know, the last year or so of his career, his neck is so bad. I mean, he talked about how I couldn't feel my feet during matches, couldn't feel my hands. Let him go in there and do all these matches. I mean, this is not something that is, like, exclusive to GCW or any of these independent promotions. I mean, this happens at the very top of every promotion. So, is it good? No! Am I defending it or advocating for it? Of course not. But the point is, it happens. So anyway, let's get some plugs in, Lance.
Sure. Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling, Thursday nights, Access TV, Sportsnet 360 in Canada. A week today, this coming Friday in Brampton, Ontario, available on TNA Plus, and I believe Fight as well, is Under Siege, which is our next PLE-like special on the app. Again, I'm blanking on which matches have been announced and which haven't, so I won't plug the matches. Go to TNA Wrestling on any social media platform or the website, and they will plug the matches there. But again, our app special next Friday.
Well, I can plug the matches if you really want before we run out of time here.
Please.
I ran out of time. I was scrolling, couldn't find them. All right, everybody. Well, you know, we'll talk about that all next week because Lance is going to be on here on... what is it? Tuesdays and Fridays is the plan?
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. Wrestling Observer Live.